Hey, everybody, it's me, Pete. So here's something a little different this week. We're in the thick of summer, and Nikki and I are taking a bit of a break to recharge because, rest is productivity strategy too. And while we're out, we didn't want to just leave you with dead air in the feed. So we're bringing back some old episodes, and we're calling them The Revisit. Now, if you've been around a while, you'll remember our conversations with Dr. Kurosh Dini about the idea of the visit, the practice of showing up to a thing, a task, a moment on purpose with a little curiosity and a lot less judgment, not white-knuckling it, not forcing it, just, visiting. And that felt like exactly the right way to think about these summer episodes. We've got years of conversations going back there in the archive, episodes a lot of you have never heard, episodes some of you might want to hear again with fresh ears. So we're going back to visit them on purpose together. This is one of our favorites. It's a conversation with Jane Massengill about taming your gremlins, that insidious inner voice that most of us with ADHD know a little too well, and some genuinely practical ways to notice them, to name them, and choose what you do with them. It holds up. I think you're going to get a lot out of it, whether it's your first time or maybe your fifth. So settle in, enjoy the revisit, and we'll be back with new episodes before you know it. Thanks, as always, for being here. We appreciate your time and your attention.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer. Hello, Nikki. Are you feeling okay?
I'm feeling great.
Oh, it's great to have you here, right here.
Thank
at
you.
This time.
At the right time. Yes, I had a moment.
I had a
moment today, and I messed up on my scheduling. And but I have great clients. And they're flexible, and she was working with me, and so I'm here.
That is perfect. It's just perfect.
Yes.
I'm very excited about our conversation today. We're going to be talking about Gremlins, and we have, I think, in fact, the perfect guest to talk to us about Gremlins. Before we do that, head over to TakeControlADHD.com to get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to our mailing list, and we'll send you an email each time a new episode is released. You can connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at TakeControlADHD, and if the show has ever touched you, if it's ever helped you to change your life for the better, if you've ever found that you can that you can approach the world in a different way because of the conversations that you've heard here on the ADHD podcast, we invite you to consider supporting the show directly through Patreon. Patreon is listener-supported podcasting. With just a few dollars a month, you can help to guarantee that we continue to grow the show, to add new features, and invest more heavily in our community. Visit patreon.com/theADHD podcast to learn more. Thanks for your support. Jane Massengill has been coaching adults with ADHD for the past 20 years, helping them to learn to put the brakes on their internal chatter long enough so that they can begin to experience their bright spots instead of focusing on their dark spots. She's the director of the aptly named Gremlin-Taming Institute and speaks to audiences of all kinds on the benefits of learning how to listen to yourself. As a clinical social worker and master certified coach, we are thrilled to have her on the show today to talk about taming our gremlins. Jane, welcome to the ADHD podcast.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Now, Jane, you are a wonderful person for joining us here. You and I have never met in person, but we have had technical conversations this morning. But you and Nikki, you guys, did you just meet at the conference? Is that how you came across one another?
A couple years ago, we met each other at the last 2017 ADHD conference. At least that was my first recollection.
Yes, yeah. And I actually took one of the sessions that she led prior to that, but I didn't actually go and introduce myself. I was shy, but I did buy the book. After her session, I did buy the book, Taming Your Gremlins. And then I think I actually, at that point in 2017, introduced myself. I came up, I did one of her sessions again and introduced myself. And that's when we met. And then we saw each other at this last chat conference and had a great conversation. I was like, I want you on the show.
Well, yeah, we should say if you guys have known each other for that long, then it's about time.
That's about
It's
time.
about
That's
time.
right.
And her
That's
message
right.
is perfect. It's so right on and so important for our listeners to hear. So
Outstanding. Well, let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
Well,
Nikki,
thank
how
you.
did this hit you? How did this conversation hit your calendar?
Well, in particular, I would say that it's the exercises, Jane,
Yeah.
that you did in the different sessions that we had, and so her sessions are very audience. They participate, right? So you practice what she's teaching, and it's a lot about mindfulness and really paying attention to what's around you. And one of the things that I specifically remember in the session in 2017 is you had us look around the room. You just had us take a second to look around the room and notice stuff. And I remember noticing a telephone on the wall and how weird that was. There was a phone on the wall. But, you wouldn't have noticed that unless you were really taking the time to really pay attention. And she talks, and she will today talk a lot about that internal dialogue that we have with ourselves. And as we know, so many ADDers have negative internal dialogues. They really beat themselves up. And so if we can shed some light to make that be different and look more positive, then, I think that's a really good thing to do.
Well, and as somebody who trucks with ADHD myself, this is an element of constant practice, right? I mean, it's something that you just have to constantly be with. And sometimes, I find that the noise in my head, the chatter in my head is so loud, I don't even know that it's negative. Right. I couldn't even tell you if there was an emotional component to it, knowing that it is. It's just invisible. It's just like busy. And that can be, that can certainly hurt my worldview. So I'm thrilled that you are here, Jane, to lead us through some of these things. Where would you like to start?
First of all, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, excited to be sharing some stories and information with you guys. It's so true, Pete, what you just said is sometimes that inner conversation, that dialogue is so insidious that we don't even know that it's there.
Yeah.
And I think what excites me so much is really learning some solid techniques, having some solid tools to practice myself and to be able to share with other people, so that you can do something about when that, first of all, even notice that conversation is showing up in the first place. It's interesting. I've been doing some work recently and just trying to get some clarity. First of all, I have ADHD. And so do those of us that have ADHD, do we really have this voice more than other people do? Or is it just something that everybody has? And we just happen to be I just happen to be talking about it, or we just happen to be talking about it and
that's
noticing
fascinating.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started getting really curious, and I went back and started thinking about my past career. So I've actually been I've been curious about for truly most of my life. I've just been curious about why do some people struggle and other people don't? Because we've all been given this amazing gift of this life. We've all equally been given this life. And yet there are some people that have certain biological issues that struggle more with those issues, and other people who completely succeed despite their biology. That just kind of fascinates me. It got me pretty curious. Why do some people with ADHD struggle with a lot of their daily challenges? And other people started researching a lot of famous people with ADHD. Why do people like Jim Carrey, Michael Phelps, how do they push through push through their challenges? They've both come out with speaking openly about having ADHD, as well as many others. But what makes them different? And how can we learn from that? And I propose that it has something to do with what you say to yourself and the words that you use and these inner conversations that are going on inside of us.
That is fascinating. I just have to step back because of you bring up two names that are close to me culturally, right? Jim Carrey and Michael Phelps. Based on their own performance, I look at them as very serious and sort of cognitively adept people, cognitively aware. When you look at Michael Phelps and he's got the headphones on and he's planning, I mean, he is in his zone. And that is a zone in which I think many ADHDers don't often find themselves.
Yeah, or maybe don't even know how to get there
Yeah,
sometimes.
right.
Yeah. And I would also propose that it's because we've tattooed ourselves, we've conditioned ourselves to believe that maybe it's not even our gig, maybe it's not even possible, maybe we can't because we have ADHD, so. I want to challenge that actually because there's no doubt in my mind. I've had so many experiences of watching people who've struggled with and without ADHD, and some thrive and some don't. In my days as a social worker, I first started it as I have an undergraduate and a graduate degree in social work. And when I first started I spent the first 7 years of my career in hospitals, and a lot of people had really varied circumstances going on then. A few cases. I had worked with I worked with so many people, but a 41-year-old woman who had 2 small children, and she was literally in her last year of life with melanoma. I had a father that I worked with who was grieving this killer 3-year-old son who he backed over and crushed with his backhoe. I had a 13-year-old, that's supposed to be off, sorry. A 13-year-old who was pregnant for a second time. And both of those children were fathered by relatives. Horrific life circumstances. And yet and maybe it was the short-term nature of the work that I did with these because I was working in a hospital setting. So I didn't hear about the inner conversations that were going on. But what I witnessed is that they stayed so strong in the moment rather than focus on beating themselves up for being in the moment in the first place. So they really stayed present rather than bringing the past in terms of being able to handle this situation that was going on right now. Their focus was more on like, what do I need to do right now? And let me forget about everything that ever got me here if I'm going to be able to manage what's going on right here. Because when you start bringing in all that stuff about what's happened in the past and how you got here, you don't have the wherewithal, you don't have the gifts to access that you already have inside of you to deal with what's going on in the moment.
I have an incredibly difficult time comparing any of my baggage and voices in history to some of the experiences that you just described.
Right. Well, and yet at the same point, some of the things that we get into with having ADHD, like one of my most painful coaching clients was an older gentleman with ADHD, and he really struggled with his finances, and lost most of the money that he ever made, and was so ashamed of that he ended up taking his own life. He had definitely had ADHD. He was struggling with trying to work through it. And yet that shame, those conversations that were going on in his head were so prevalent. And he had trouble sorting himself from it. He didn't know how to, he didn't choose to, or for whatever reason, chose not to stay in the present moment and work with what was going on now. He brought all of that contaminated stuff from the past into the present. I don't want that to ever happen to anybody, ever. And so these little things, Pete, that they feel like sometimes little things in comparison to some of those issues that I just talked about from my early days in social work. And yet it's all those little things that can add up. A life is a life. So regardless of what gets in the way, it's still getting in the way of a life. And we all equally have the responsibility to protect that gift as much as we choose to.
Power of choice. That's an interesting, and I'm sure, I don't know if you're going to end up talking about that, but I was rereading some of the book yesterday just to kind of, remember what I was learning before and, just kind of catch up. But there were a couple things that really stood out, and the power of choice, but also finding joy inside of yourself. And I'll tell you that I had to reread that paragraph because that was a really interesting concept that, I think we all kind of know, but don't. We kind of expect that other things are going to make us happy, other things are going to bring us joy. But the example that he used in the book was going out to dinner with his son, and his son was eating these barbecued ribs. And when he got done eating the barbecued ribs, he just had this like look of satisfaction, and he was just smiling ear to ear because it was pure joy just from eating something he really, really liked. So I don't know where that came from, but
Well, we lose the joy in the moment. Yeah, and
it's that moment.
that's really an important point, Nikki, because part of what we're going for when I ask myself, okay, what is it that makes some people survive in difficult circumstances and some people have challenges? Part of it is coming back to that present moment and being able to connect with what's underneath the circumstances and the life's breaths that you're given. And it is so easy to take that for granted. And it's interesting, first of all, I want to say before we go any further, the book that we're referring to that you showed a picture of was written over 35 years ago by Rick Carson. Yeah, I know, it's amazing. It was the only book that was ever required when I went through my coach training program 20 years ago. And it's now been written in, I think, about 15 different languages, none of which, by the way, I think this always fascinates me for authors, none of which was initiated by the author, by Rick. It's just organically other people that just said, this should be in this language, And it's used all over the world with all sorts of organizations and companies and lots of coaches and therapists and substance abuse programs. So I feel so blessed to have picked up that book and let it guide me in so many ways. And I took Rick seriously when in the back of the book he says, if you have questions, call me. Here's my phone number. And I opened it. That was a great part of being impulsive. I picked up the phone and called him, and he answered. And that from there we have had a great long collegial relationship and a great friendship, and I've just learned so much. I'm so grateful to him for everything.
Oh, that's
great.
He's brought to me. Yeah.
One phone call changed kind of the direction of where you were going with your coaching as well, I'm sure.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah. Another phone call that was actually really pivotal in my life was, again, this is kind of where that impulsiveness of your ADHD shows up. As when I left hospital social work, I went into psychiatry. We moved from UMass Medical Center over to Fairfield, California. Picked up the phone book in the yellow pages because there wasn't an internet at that time. I'm sounding a little older, and called all the psychiatrists. And one new psychiatrist in town interviewed me, brought me in, and I convinced him to hire me. And turns out that it was Daniel Amen. I don't know if you guys may know Daniel Amen. So we started working together, and it was through his. I started doing all these evaluations. This was back in the late 80s, early 90s, when adult ADHD was just being considered as a DSM diagnosis. And it was also at the time when he shortly thereafter, started doing all these brain images. And he asked the whole staff to come in if they wanted to. Come on in, I'll give you brain. I need some brains, is what he said.
Mm-hmm.
I need some normal brains, is what he said. So I thought, I don't know if you're going to get normal, but I want to see what my brain looks like. So I went in, and we both looked at my scan together, and he went, I kind of didn't expect this from you. And I said, well, tell me about this. He says, well, your prefrontal cortex isn't working quite like everybody, like the typical brain that I was expecting, because you look like you have it pretty together most of the time. And to me, it was like a light bulb went off, because I was doing all these evaluations for adults with ADHD thinking, come on, everybody's got this, I guess it sounded so much like me. So I made that assumption, of course, that everybody had it. But when I saw my scan results, it really made sense that, and the scan, that I want to make it clear, the scan doesn't diagnose you, but it's the whole picture together. And at home, what Dan Amen didn't see is that I had lots of projects that were started and unfinished, and my desk was a shambles, and I just didn't have a whole lot of patience with my kids. So I was really blessed to have connected with him, worked with him for a dozen years, and got into coaching actually during the time I was also working with him. So
I have a question for you because I want to circle back to when you were talking about being curious. Is it different? Is the internal dialogue different with ADDers versus somebody without ADHD? What did you find out?
I think so. Well, here's what I found out is I think so because we're being told our whole lives, sit down, shut up, don't move,
Sit still.
sit still, clean up your messes, stop interrupting from very early ages. So every experience we have in our life, we create some ideas about who we are based on those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true for everybody. And what's also true is that when you don't fit into the same box, especially in our school system, the way our school system's set up, you don't fit in the same box that everybody else does. So you're going to get, for the most part, and you're going to get way more messages than the average child might receive. Again, diagnosed or not, it doesn't matter. And so you start making up all these ideas about who you are. And those ideas actually may have nothing to do with who you truly are. So all of a sudden, this line becomes sort of blurry between who am I and who am I really, and what are these what are people saying about me? And so we start taking on that internal dialogue. One example I can think of is again, these experiences start early. When I was 6 years old, first grade, I can remember having to come up in front of this. I talked a lot. And I was very chatty. And I went to a Catholic school. I remember being pulled up in the front of the classroom, and Sister Laura, bless your heart now, would have me hold my lips shut. And she'd make me stand in front of the classroom, facing all my peers, holding my lips shut.
Wow.
For anywhere between 1 and 5 minutes. It was
my
public
goodness.
shaming.
Yeah.
And I was also probably pretty vain at that age, so I was equally as worried. I was shamed, and I was equally as worried that the longer I did that, my lips were going to look like hers, and she had these big lips, and I didn't like the way she looked either. So anyway, I started faking that I was holding my lips, and if I could talk to her now, I'd say, Sister Laura, I get paid for talking. And
Look at me now.
That's right. And if I wanted big lips, I'll go to Botox. So,
That's right.
Anyway, so yes, we do I do believe that there's truth to this, Nikki, that I do think that the dialogue is different for adults with ADHD and for kids too, which is why I'm such a big proponent of parents. Pay close attention to what you're saying to your kids, because whether you know it or not, these are all formative memories of things that they're going to take with them in terms of who they start believing that they are.
Well, that's the curse of being a parent with ADHD, right? Is that sometimes I find myself in ADHD understanding mode where I'm parenting with ADHD in mind. And sometimes I find that, I'm parenting normatively, and it's just because we're not in sync. And I find myself saying things that were said to me, and I want to just slam my head in the car door. It's just so, I hear it as it comes out of my mouth. It's so triggering.
I know you want to just kind of pull them back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's painful. It's painful. So it's interesting. When I came back from the ADHD conference in St. Louis, Russ Barkley spoke on adults with people with ADHD having shorter lifespans. And I didn't even want to go to that conference because I thought, why do I want to learn that I'm going to die earlier? But I'm really glad I went, because he talks about conscientiousness. And one of the things that can increase your lifespan is being more conscious. I thought, perfect. Being more aware, noticing more, paying more attention. And I thought, well, hang on a second, we have ADD. And so paying attention and being more aware, that's part of the challenge of, our focus is all over the place. I have been practicing simply noticing, sort of the essence of Gremlin-Taming now for about the last 20 years. And simply noticing it is paying attention, but there's kind of you're paying attention to a whole lot of things. And so I thought, well, how can I help people simplify what it is to pay attention to? How can I take this buzzword of mindfulness, awareness, simply noticing, and bring it down even more to help people have a simple place to start in the beginning? And so I started thinking about word watching, kind of like bird watching. Bird watching, when you're sitting in your bird watching, you're just sitting, you're kind of looking specifically. Maybe you're looking for a specific bird, or you might just be sitting on your porch kind of going, what's flying by? Well, all day long, those birds are flying by, whether you know it or not. You just haven't stopped long enough to really focus on them, to pay attention to them. And there are some words are the same way. So it's helpful to be able to. So I want to play around a little bit today with doing some word watching. There's some certain words that I find that once you get underneath the words, you start understanding what are the habits, the behaviors, and the beliefs that we have about ourselves. And then once you notice those things, then you can decide what do you want to do with them. Again, coming down to the choice. So,
well, and I want to say something about that before we do the practice, because I know that there's this power of choice, but then at the same time, you say, what is it that you want to do with it after you've noticed it? But I guess where I get stuck is, how does a person stop believing what they have believed for so long?
Great question. It goes back to that experience of joy that you talked about earlier, Nikki. So the first time I ever had my own experience I'll go back to Pete. This insidious voice, it used to be so connected to me that I didn't know the difference between the two. And I had a very powerful experience of being able to just sort out to be able to take that inner conversation and literally give it a picture, call it a gremlin, put it behind me, and then come back and have the same exact experience I just had, but only with that
Behind you.
behind me. It is separated from my body. And I have goosebumps.
So you can't do that without the awareness, because you have to be able to know it's there and separate it.
Right. And the words are one way into that awareness.
Right.
So
okay.
It's kind of like there's this big thing of being aware. Well, what are we supposed to be aware of? Our words, our behaviors, our habits, inner conversations, physical experiences in our body. All of those are grist for the mill in terms of things that you can be aware of. But where to start, if you want to just take one super simple thing. And so I'm proposing start with your words. That's a super simple thing that you can take. Listen to, do you hear yourself say the word "I can't," or "I should," or just some of the more defining language. So when I experienced myself without the gremlin in my body, I had this. There was such tremendous freedom. I honestly felt like I was just being born again. Like here I am. Holy crap, there's a me inside of here without all this conversation. That's the fuel. That's the motivation. It's not a decision, because you don't need to cognitively decide that. When you feel joy, when you feel happiness and freedom, you naturally move toward it. You don't have to decide. If you were behind a barbed wire fence and somebody opened it up, and you don't have to ask yourself, do I want to go through this today? Let me choose. Let me decide. Heck no, you're taking a run for it. And that's the same thing with that inner freedom. It's already there, but we squish it with all these experiences that we've had based on, being the square peg in a round hole, or whatever that thing is.
So watch for those words. So those all or nothing words is something that people can start to pay attention to. Can't, should, ought to.
Yeah, words, and then phrases like, when I was a kid, my cousin would always say, "Oh, Jane, you're such a Jane," when I do something goofy.
Oh.
Right.
And she was goofing around. And yet when I got married, my husband said, "Wow, that's such a put down when you say it to yourself." Because I used to just automatically say it. And when I really started thinking about it, what I was saying, what the message underneath that was that I was making up was, "I'm stupid. I'm never going to be good enough. Why bother trying?" And so simply paying attention and noticing those words, that message, then I can decide, do I want to take that right now? Or do I want to put those words behind me, or put them aside, or just choose to not interact with them? It's incredibly powerful.
It really is. And I think I've already shared this story on the podcast. So forgive me, listeners, if you're listening to it again. But I think it's important. My daughter was going to a gymnastics meet and she was in the car and she was talking about how she was nervous. She said, I'm really nervous about this. And I had just read something about when you say I am, whatever comes afterwards is what you're focused on and it's what, is going to come to you. So I shared that with her and I said, when you say I am nervous, then when you go out there, that's what you're going to feel. So what's something else you can say that would be a different result? And so we came up with I am brave, I am courageous, I am strong, all of these things. And what was so great about it, Jane, is that she didn't make the scores that she needed to, but she came out really proud of herself and really happy about her meet.
I am are two really powerful words. Again, just listen to the words. Kind of like, okay, there's bird flying by. There's an I am word. Pay attention to that I am word. I wear a bracelet every day of my life. It says until now. So that when I catch myself in the middle of an I am statement, and I catch anybody else in them, I will call us all on that, and try those two little words. Until now, I am nervous, or until now,
Oh, that's
I
great.
am
That's
not good at
great.
something.
Yeah.
I never thought of that until now.
I love it. Yeah, until
Yeah.
now.
That's
It
a
brings
great.
you back into the moment rather than letting the past contaminate the present.
Well, it's a
Goes
great
back to-
exercise
yeah.
because I feel like part of the insidious nature of the voices of the things in our head is that they are by their nature sort of calorically exhausting, right? Like
Yeah,
there
yeah.
comes a time where you let the voices in because you're so tired of fighting them all the time.
Great
And
point.
these having a mnemonic, having some sort of a reminder, a physical, a tchotchke, a something, your bracelet it's so beautiful to remind you to just stop. Just stop. We know you're going to have to be reminded to stop. You live with ADHD. Just find something to remind you to stop and say something positive about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't ever stop trying. Don't get so comfortable with your own habits and rituals that don't serve you, because you've been given this incredible life that we all have. I mean, and what you choose to do with it is completely up to you. Why not do the best with it you possibly can, regardless of your struggles?
Well, this seems like a great entree into an exercise. Do you want to lead us through something practical here?
Yeah. So what I'd like all your viewers to do, and viewers, listeners, and the two of you also, is come up. I just want you to think back for a moment on a time in your life where and it could be yesterday and it could be 25, 40 years ago, a time in your life when something with your ADD kind of slipped you up, got in your way. It could be an embarrassing moment. A first grade talking too much, might be a deadline that you didn't miss that maybe you got in trouble for. Maybe you interrupted somebody. Maybe you were late to something. You had to pay a bunch of late fees because you didn't pay some bills on time, or you lost a property tax payment check, which was flipped behind my desk. Cost me a lot of money. A time you passed up an opportunity because you didn't think you could handle it. Just think about one of those, and write it down. I'm going to ask that you come up with one and write it down. Just one or two sentences about it.
Okay.
Okay.
The sound of writing is always exceptional podcasting.
Okay.
Right? I know. Or typing, having the typing.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. And then I want you to ask yourself, and also write this down, what did you make up about yourself as a result of that incident? Remember, with every experience we have, we make up something about ourselves, good and bad. Okay. And then what do you do now or not do now because of that experience? Either a behavior or a belief or habit. And then I want you to go back through what you just wrote and underline or circle any words that you can watch for that are going to clue you into either your choice to follow through with a behavior that or pattern that doesn't fit you, or to watch or to change that. So just look for any clues for words that you would say that when you circle those words, underline those words, that you can just watch for in your word watching process to help you become more aware of whether or not what you've made up about yourself works for you in this moment.
Can you clarify that a little bit? Can you give me an example of the kinds of words I'm going to be looking for?
Yes. So things like, I'll go back to my situation with Sister Laura. So when she had me hold my lips shut, what I made up about myself is nobody wants to hear what I have to say. So I need to be quiet. I spent many years being second fiddle, I would say, or being just really afraid to stand up and talk in front of people, or always feeling like what I had to say wasn't good enough, because I took that also from You're Such a Jane. So the words that I pay attention to there are not good enough. Or talking, my voice, you talk too much, I don't have a voice. They might not even they may or may not show up specifically in what you physically wrote. They might be underneath that a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I pay close attention to my voice when I hear in my own mind saying, I don't have anything to say. Sometimes that is so subtle that I turn down opportunities because I think I'm not the one to talk about this.
So do we share?
Yes, please share. What'd you come up with? Yes, Nikki, go ahead. I can see your eager beaver over there.
I know. Okay. Well, it's really interesting because when you asked the question, I know exactly what popped in my mind first.
Okay.
I was in college and I don't even remember the class or the professor. All I remember is him telling me that I needed to go to the writing center because my paper wasn't good enough. So it wasn't, formed correctly, or I don't know, but he told me to go to the writing center. And so with that, it has always stuck with me that I'm not a very good writer.
Oh, okay.
And when I do have to write, I get stuck a lot.
Okay.
Like it always takes me a while to like get started because I don't, I wonder if this is going to be good enough. And then Pete, this. I almost always ask you to take whatever I've written and fluff it up, is what I call it. Put a spin on it, edit it. I always ask somebody to edit my stuff.
Okay.
For the most part, blog posts, not always, but you know what I mean? So it's like, I always kind of think there's this little voice that I'm not a great writer. And then I think in my career, I decided to write less. I do less blogging and do more of have more of a focus on podcasting.
Because of that, because of that old belief.
I think it is, in the sense that, I can't necessarily say, it's because it's that professor who said that to me, but I think it is that underlying belief that I don't write very well. I'm not going to get my point across. The conversation's not going to go where I want it to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the things for you to watch for in terms of language are what?
Well, I think it's definitely saying that I'm not a good writer.
Okay.
Right? Because really, I could be a great writer.
Yeah. Say that again.
Yeah, I could be a great writer, right? Like, yeah. And I think one of the words that I saw was feeling stuck. I don't have to feel stuck. I should be able to just start writing. Pete, you said this before for other writers. Just write. Doesn't matter what it is. Just start writing. And I've thought about that sometimes when I do blog posts, is just start putting the ideas, on the paper and have it form. But I think getting stuck and that I am a good writer are the things that I have to pay attention to.
Great. And I guess I want to say one quick thing about that too. You might choose you might have a preference actually to speak and to do blogs versus to write. That might be a choice that you've decided you want to follow that path instead of writing. And that's okay. And at some point, should somebody come along and say, hey, this is a person I know you respect highly, and we need a 2-paragraph something written about this person. Would you be willing to do that? You don't want to ever box yourself in and with a belief that says you can't do something in this very moment that you want to or you need to.
Yeah, that's a good point. But if somebody came and asked me to write a book, I'd say no.
Uh-huh.
I
Because
did
you
that
don't want to, or
once.
because you think you
I
can't?
did it and I hated it. It was
Okay.
so hard. So for people who are authors, I have so much respect for you because writing a book is so hard. It is really hard. And I know that's a total limiting belief.
Yes, it's another concept. Yeah.
It is a concept, and
Yeah.
I probably need to work through that. So maybe I shouldn't say that if somebody wants me to write a book, I
That's
would say
another
no.
episode. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm kind of working this out right now as we speak.
Okay.
I have lots of issues around writing. I should probably go to therapy and talk about it
Until
some more.
now. Until now.
Until now. Yeah. Oh, you opened up a can of worms.
All right,
All
Pete,
right,
we better shift
Pete,
to you
moving
before we
on
get
to
too
you.
deep
Yeah,
into
I feel like we're coming off the rails. No, for me, it was, part of my career is in video production, and I ran into a client who wanted some very specific, heavy graphics intensive work, and that's not a style that I do a lot of work in. I'm much more of a documentarian. And I don't do a lot of building, sweeping on-screen graphics, things like animations and things. And that's what they wanted. And I found myself in a place where it was just way too easy to delay, to take too long, to put myself in a bad light because I was not fast enough or not good enough to do what they needed to be done. And as a result, I found I just would stay away from clients who were asking for that kind of work. And the sort of, as I started thinking about it and writing about it, I was realizing that, what they were asking for was some inspiration from me as a creative professional. And what I was delivering was uninspired. And that's the word that sort of stuck for me. And I found that that's a hard thing. And the truth is, I think if I'm really looking at it practically, if I'm really watching those words in the other projects I've taken on, it's not that I may not be as fast as some others, but I can do the work. It puts me in, it turns my stomach into knots, right? I mean, it's just hard. I think whenever I think of those projects, I go back to that one that still is over my head. Like, I did that badly. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't fast enough. I'm uninspired.
I want you to go back to that phrase, I can do the work.
Okay.
And say that again.
Yeah, I can do the work.
And notice what that feels like when you say that.
Right. Yeah, well, it's
And-
appreciably different. I can do the work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feel that sense of freedom, like somebody just opened the barbed wire gate for a minute.
Yeah, and you
there's
just
something
need
internal that's
stick your foot in
minor.
it and squeeze through.
Yeah.
Right.
You still might not decide to go that direction, but that experience of, well, I can do this. That's the piece. That's that place of joy. Like Nikki, you said, I know I could write. I know I can. It's the same thing. You could see it in you when you said it. It was like this bang, that shift of something. Again, you might not choose to necessarily follow through with action that, your decision is not necessarily relevant. It's that experience of peace that we're all after on the inside, that sense of freedom, like to not tattoo yourself with ideas about who you are is incredibly freeing.
Well, it is. It feels like this is what, just writing it down and seeing the words, it's like a retroactive kind of continuity, right? I'm trying to change my experience of history a little bit so that I can experience in a more sort of productive kind of fashion.
Great. Really well said. When you bring things into the light, something as simple as watching your words and writing them down, there's something powerful about writing them down versus just saying them. Saying them's great too, but writing them down, I prefer it simply because it comes into black and white or red and blue. And you can then see, okay, what do I want to make up? What have I made up about myself based on these words? And is that what I want to do right now in this breath? Tomorrow you might want to, but we get a redo every single breath. We breathe 34,000 times a day. That's a lot of breaths.
That's a lot of breaths.
That's a lot of breaths. And if you think in every single breath we get a chance to redo, that's a gift. Don't take it lightly. Don't take it lightly.
Yeah,
What a wonderful
bottom
little
line is,
exercise.
watch your words.
Yeah.
Watch your words and what's underneath them, and choose what you want to do with that.
That is beautiful.
So one point that I just want to say that I think was really interesting is, Jane, you said it may not be what you wrote down. It may be underneath that. And I think that's a really good point, because at first we just look at what did we write? What are we looking for? But we got to peel the layer. We have to peel the onion a little bit more to really see what's under there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of separating you from your voice, separating you from the ideas about who you are, is digging a little bit deeper so you can experience what's underneath it. And you become in touch with the one who's doing that, the observer. That's the power.
This is such what a wonderful exercise, Jane. Thank you so much for sharing
You're
this with
welcome.
us and running us through it. I have some more writing to do and a new model through which to do it. Share us, we're wrapping up here, but share us a little bit. Where would you like people to go to learn more about you and your work? And is there a way we can take this exercise, and would you be okay with us sharing it as like a PDF, or do you have a PDF or something we could share it with?
I don't have a PDF, but I can make one up for you and send it your way, no doubt. I would say the first thing to do is just keep a word journal. Keep some kind of a journal. I've called it for myself over the years. I've had a Gremlin journal that entails a whole lot. For me, the word journal seems super simple, just a quick, easy way in to start. So keep a word journal, and just a place to kind of catch yourself with your language.
And where would you like people to go to learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Come to my website, janemassengill.com.
Well, that's
Easy.
easy.
Simple.
Easiest way to find me. Yep. janemassengill.com. I'm on Facebook. Also, I have a business page, Jane Massengill. So I'm a name you can trust. Just come by.
Oh, listen to
Awesome.
you. Thank you so much, Jane Massengill. We sure appreciate your time and attention today, as we do all of our listeners who have downloaded, all their Patreon supporters who've shown up for the live stream. Thank you, everybody, for your time and your attention. Until next week, on behalf of Jane Massengill and Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll catch you right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.